All right, guys, good morning. Good morning. After amazing Wednesday number 4 of Build a SaaS from Idea to Impact, Jonathan's grandma, Artie, Dallas, Rutro, Vladimir, Sarah, so good to see all of you this morning. I have a couple things going on, a couple meetings, but that doesn't change the fact that we have a recap going down this morning. I'm going to bring up the tech in schools. We'll bring up Alisher, Farhadi, as well as Sarah, and let you guys have a great hour of recap here. Guys, like and retweet the room if you're in here. There's probably some folks who missed last night and today could catch them up. It surely could. So, Alisher, I'm going to go ahead and give you the mic. I'll let you go ahead and run this session. I'll be back here after a couple meetings. We'll be sure to close it down and share some notes with innovators as well. But for now, Sarah, welcome up on stage as well. Good morning. You got some coffee and ready for a little recap or what?
I always have coffee. Coffee is proof that God loves everybody else because uncaffeinated Sarah is no bueno. So, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to class. I'm so happy to see all of your shining faces this morning. I know you're crispy around the edges, but you know what? We're going to get her done, got her dead, as they say out here in the rural area I live in. So, I'll be watching for hands and answering DMs behind the scenes as Alisher goes through, and Ross and Nick, if they are in the background also. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or need help, just holler. We'll look out for you.
I love it. I'm so glad you're here, Sarah. Alisher, I'll go ahead and give you the mic. It looks like you're in the Tech in Schools account. If you wouldn't mind maybe opening up the room a little bit, sharing with folks kind of what happened last night for the most part, and then what we're doing today as well. So, Alisher, I'll give you the mic. Brother, thanks for being here. Those of you who are trickling in the room, really good to see you as well. Rosemary, welcome back in here. Leslie, good to see you as well. Crazy Jack, welcome back, my friend. Alisher, mic is all yours, brother. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Today I'm taking over the TSI account a little bit, and I'm gonna keep my account as a listener for now because I'm using it to record this space along with the live stream. So, yesterday we had a long session. We had a long and very technical session, and the whole point of the session was to take what we have found, the code that we have found on GitHub, to take our SaaS template and put them together. Start, sewing in all those parts of the app that we need to add in different features and make our SaaS product attractive to potential buyer, to your potential audience. Now, yesterday we went through a few modules. First, we went through understanding how to build, a basic feature with AI, using the proper documentation, and learning how to make proper API calls with our features. And then we took that and we started to combine that into our next subscribe payment template that we got from Vercel. And what ended up happening is we got through most of it. And at the very end, we just had a few things in terms of just different types of app structures and adjusting to that. Well, gladly, AI was able to help us. And today we're going to go through that. We're going to go through integrating actually two projects into our SaaS template so you guys can see that process. And understand that even though it is very much trial and error, you do have to go back and forth with AI quite a lot. At the end of the day, it does fix our code, and we are able to sort of proceed with the feature and use it. And hopefully, by the end of the recap, we'll have some people who have their projects in Vercel, and you can even start charging a subscription already at that point. Because now you're providing people with a feature that you are actually getting charged money for, because we are paying for the Stable Diffusion API call. And if you were using the Draw UI template, you are paying for that GPT-4 vision call. So right there, you can figure out what your margins are, what the user can do, and you can start charging people your subscription fee. So what I would say is let's do a little showcase first. So let's go to the live stream, and I'll show you guys how far we got yesterday. So I'll give everybody a minute to get to the live stream, and then we'll take a look at the end result of what we did yesterday. And
Alisher, just for a second, Cash Money, can you add the ITT tweet that has the connections so that folks can find the live stream? Sorry about that, Alisher. I'm trying to populate the nest with the information that we had last night. I apologize for interrupting.
Yeah, let me go ahead. I notice on the website as well. Let me pull this open here, guys. Apologies here. Okay, I see this. Sarah, we're gonna get this fixed. So if you guys look at the Jumbotron here in a moment, we'll have a link directly to that live stream. We'll make sure the TSI_org is being ported over to innovatorsthinktank.com. So Alisher, sorry about that, my friend. Over to you.
Yeah, and thank you guys for noticing that. It's important because we are going to need the live stream. Oh, and I do also see that it's not there. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. I'll take a minute, but I'll explain what we did either way up till that point. So up until that point, what we did was is we set up our SaaS template. We did that in week 2. Now our SaaS template, our nextjs subscription payments templates straight from Vercel. It essentially uses Supabase, which is a database service, to keep all the user data, and then it uses Stripe to charge your user subscription and for you to be able to determine whether or not they have an active subscription. So it becomes very important when you're determining whether that user has access to certain features of your platform or it does not. And so once we launched that template, well, immediately, whatever products we made in Stripe started populating in for the monthly and the yearly um, on our website. Now, some other services that we used that week was Vercel. Now, Vercel enabled us to take a project from GitHub and immediately launch it into a live website. So you're able to give people a link that ends in .vercel.app, and they're able to visit your website, and immediately you can start using your website to sign people up, and of course start collecting the subscription payments. Now, for most of us, for now, this is in testing mode, but I would say as of yesterday, if you have added new features, you should be able to change your Stripe to live mode and then redeploy your app so you can start charging people actual money and start using this template. Now,
Alisher, just so sorry for the interruption. We got you live on innovatorsthinktank.com with the agenda for today. And I will note that I put that in the Jumbotron and I said live stream link with a siren and an arrow going down. So, guys, if you want to get the live stream that Alisher is referring to, click on the link in the Jumbotron. So, sorry about that, Alisher. Our fault over here. Your mic is all yours, sir.
no, that's awesome. I was just checking the website as well, guys. Very important. Do go to the live stream and follow along with the live stream. The live stream is going to be extremely useful. It's going to give you that visual representation that, unfortunately, X Spaces kind of misses when it comes to learning. I think visual learning, um, a lot easier for some of us to understand what's going on. And right now, as I'm going through what we did so far in our SaaS template, if you're following along with the live stream, what you're going to see is you're going to see this page. This is the page I've been building out with you guys since week 2, since we launched this. And as you can see, at first, everybody's going to start out on the front page. Everybody's going to be signed out. Your page is going to look something like this. So what you want to do is, if you have not signed up for your own website, sign up. And once you're signed up, you'll be able to get into your account. And if you followed along with us last night, you would have some additional things in the menu. So for me, I have Draw UI, which is our Draw UI example. So I have it right here wrapped in my website So I'm able to use this to draw a UI and then have GPT Vision make it real in HTML code. So that's how Draw UI works. And here's our generate, which I got rid of the key last night, so I don't accidentally get charged. But this is the generate from last night that we may work as well. So you're able to fill out your prompt, your negative prompt, your aspect ratio, and as you can see, the style of this and the colors are terrible. So that's what we're going to do next week. Is we're actually going to take these pages and mold them into whatever UI and UX you, as a creator, want to present to your customers. And you guys know something like Pixio. We have a kind of like a very distinct UI that's singular and unified throughout the app. So we're gonna learn how to create that and how to use different components next week. But for now, this is good enough, and let's see if it still works or if it does not work. So I'm drinking a Red Bull, so let's look for Red Bull. And as you can see, the UI is not even letting me see the text because the too many text colors are matching. So I can barely see these aspect ratios. And let's generate. This generate button, very simple, failed to generate. That's because I took away my API key so I don't get charged. So by the end of the day, this will work for all of us. So that's our SaaS template. Now, yesterday, what you guys did is you started out with Ross by going through the Stable Diffusion 3 project that Ross himself open sourced to you. So let's take a look at that. So here, I'm going to go to the agenda from yesterday. So Ross open sourced the project to us. It was, here it is. No? Oh, I went back too far, I think. Did I? No. There it is, Ross project. Okay. So Ross open sourced the project for us that uses the latest Stable Diffusion 3 model. So it's a great way for you to, I guess, come out with a product that's one of the first to the market, so you'll be able to immediately gain traction. Stable Diffusion, also very popular model. It's one of the basis of open source image generation. Now, this project used the template, the starter project template that we learned about in our week one. And all Ross did is he plugged in the front end code that's inside of Pages, and he plugged in the API call inside of API. And he used the AI to construct these two. So he went to Stability's website, he went to their docs, and he took the docs and asked the AI to analyze the docs and give him a page that would make this call, this API call. Now, some of the issues we experienced last night were because these two projects kind of mismatch a little bit. This project right now, the Stable Diffusion 3 project, actually uses an older version of Next.js that uses what's called page router. So all your pages and all your API calls are inside of a folder called page. And our project, our SaaS template, uses what's called an app router, right? It uses this new way of having all your pages inside of this. Let me go to my project inside of this app folder. So that's really the main difference. Is in Ross's project, everything that we need is inside of the pages folder, and in here, everything that we need is inside of the app folder. So as you guys can see inside of app, I have all these different subdirectories that lead to different pages. And of course, I also have the API, which makes the API call. And that was our main hiccup yesterday. So I spent a little bit of time, I think maybe after the space, I'm pretty sure we actually fixed it during the space as we were wrapping up. So those last 20 minutes, I was able to fix this up just by using AI. I went in I spoke to AI a little bit, and I got an idea that, well, it doesn't really understand that there's this new version of Next.js. And all I did was I went to Next.js, I copied over their documentation, I gave it to the AI, and it was able to understand it a little bit better. So giving it that extra context that we are able to give because AI Tutor Plus and GPT-4, they provide you with this huge 120K context window. Now, for here, we're going to get to this part. This is code that I open sourced back to you guys last night before we wrapped up. So I think let's get along with actually integrating this code. So this right here is Ross's code, and in order to integrate it into our SAAS template, well, we're gonna need to understand the structure of our own template a little bit. So in our template, we have a few important folders. First, of course, we have the app folder. So since our template uses what's called app router, all of our pages and our API calls will be inside of this folder. And you guys are going to notice immediately this page.tsx that you see inside the app folder, this is the main page that your users will hit as soon as they go to your website. So this is the main page, and as you can see, it has the pricing here. So just so you can orient yourself within this template a little bit. And then inside of this app folder, we have other folders. So for example, our template,
Alisher,
yeah,
Alisher, I'm sorry to interrupt you, love. Justin has a question, and I don't know if it's with something that you just previously said, because he wasn't here last night, so he might be following along at a different pace. So if you could answer his question before continuing.
yeah, please.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Justin.
Yeah, hey, thanks so much. Real quick clarifying question. So, is there like a preferred like top three, like ChatGPT, Gemini, and one other one that you would kind of suggest as like your preferred like top three that you would like, oh, these are like my go-to? Because obviously, as part of the platform, you guys provide like a ton of options, right? But from a general tip standpoint, can you share with me like, oh yeah, these are always my top three: ChatGPT, Gemini, and whatever else.
So that's a great question. I think for this type of work, last night and what I personally use the most is the developer personality and GPT-4 Turbo from 0125, so from January. Those are probably your best combination. This will get you about 120,000 context window, and what will happen is you're really not gonna hit that context window in this project because this project is pretty light. But if you do hit that context window, then you can bump yourself up to Gemini 1.5 Pro, which has that 1 million context window. I don't have it set up here, but you can always go to models and then add and just add in Gemini. You don't need any API keys here.
Okay, awesome. And then as a really helpful, thank you. And then as a follow-up real quick, so from the general standpoint of using the AI tutor tool, are there like a top three that you would suggest, or is it just depending on which persona you pick?
So for coding specifically, I suggest Plus because Plus it doesn't have a limit for your message. So in here, in this message, I can put in all of the code for my app. I can put in all of the documentation, and it'll go through it. If you go to something like Multibot, it'll cut you off. It will get you as much context as you want, but per message, you'll be cut off a little bit. But Plus doesn't do that. Plus lets you parse in. If you want to parse like a 60,000 token message, you could.
Okay, awesome. And sorry, last question. I promise, super helpful. So if I'm just like a marketer, right? Like I'm a marketer and I'm using AI Tutor and there's all those different options. Are there like a top three that you would suggest? Like, or it just depends on the persona I pick?
like specifically for marketing?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so it depends on what you want to do. This is a great tool, but this is purely for, I would say, chatting with and getting responses. If you go to premium, for marketing, I highly recommend Magic. That's a great one for marketing. And let's see.
Okay. Yeah. That I don't want to take us derail us. So thank you. Super helpful. So yeah, continue on. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, but for you, for marketing specifically, I'll recommend Magic. I'll recommend AI Tutor Premium and maybe Multibot. That's gonna be your trifecta of AI tools, and you can get different things out of them. Especially Magic. Magic has voice generation. It has different article generation. You can play around with SEO using Magic. So a lot of good marketing stuff in there. But yeah, that's actually a great question. How do we use these AI tools? That's kind of I guess that's the lesson today. Is today we're using these AI tools to try to splice in the code into our SaaS template.
Well, to give folks a better kind of word picture, we have traditional Legos, and then we have the other Legos. And you know what I'm talking about when you go onto Amazon and you see the other Legos that are compatible with the legit Legos. Now, sometimes when we're cobbling together, bits and bobs of open source code, they technically are supposed to fit together, but sometimes they're a little wonky, or they might have a different kind of connection in some ways. It's not saying that they won't fit, they actually will. It's just that you have to kind of go into the experience knowing that that might be the case. We have been trained on having everything kind of fit here and there, and then it all works seamlessly. That's not always the case. And when we're talking about my AI tutor, we have all these different personas that are wonderful at sussing out bits and bobs that we need to kind of um, figure out for ourselves. One of the main lessons and takeaways from last night and from today and from this point forward is that your AI is a cohort. If you don't understand something, you're constantly switching screens. And I know it's difficult because you're holding a phone, you're talking into the phone, you're looking at the computer, you're watching a live stream, and then you're also trying to navigate your own open windows, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, last night I told the whole entire class that I was an idiot, that I was trying to fix the screen that belonged to Ross, because that's what happens when you get tired and things like that. I understand that it can be difficult, but you do want to have your My AI Tutor opened on the side. And this is not a pitch necessarily for their product. It's just that it's the best one. There are other alternatives. We did talk about that last night. If you have other AI systems that you're paying subscriptions to and whatnot, go ahead. But you don't have the suite of tools, and those suite of tools can play off each other to really suss out the code. And for those of us that are not developers, I am not a developer, I don't play one on TV either, I need that AI to kind of interpret as if I'm a 5-year-old artist playing with coloring crayons, right? And that was one of the beautiful things last night too, that Ross did have, the step by step, and it was through the vision of a wizard, right? So whatever analogies help you understand, make sure you're really pushing the buttons and really putting those folks to work, meaning your AI cohorts, because that's what they're good at. That's their superpower. Aggregating data, distilling it down, and helping you understand so that you can do your job. Visual Life, I did see you wave. Did you have a question? I can bring you up if you need to. Or maybe you're just waving and saying hi. Um, or if you're on a desktop, I know that you can't raise your hand. So there you are. So go ahead, Ross. Or not Ross, Alisher. Sorry. Continue, love.
Ross is here too, but
I'm sure he is.
but yeah. So our app uses what's called app router. So all of our pages and our API calls are inside of the app folder. And now think of pages. Pages are your front end code. and everything inside the API folder is your server code, your backend code, your API requests. So that's how our app is set up, and we're gonna adjust. So we're gonna need to kind of adjust the old Next.js and bring it into this new Next.js framework. Now, there's also components folder, very important. That's another piece of your front end code, and typically in these different React frameworks. So if it's React.js, Node.js, um, Byte, Nuxt, all these different React frameworks, they're gonna have components that make up the pages. So components are your different UI elements. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna first create a component for our feature, and then we're just gonna use that component within a page. Um, so we're creating kind of like this wrapper where it becomes very easy to integrate different features and not change the structure of our pages too much. So we're going to use the same structure for most pages, where it has the nav bar, where it checks whether you're logged in, whether it checks if you have a subscription, and then within that we'll put a component that is our feature. So in this case, the feature is using Stable Diffusion 3 to generate images, or using GPT-4 Vision to create different HTML UI elements with Draw UI. We're going to take a look at both of them because they're both pretty easy to integrate into the SAAS template. So I would say first is we're going to create a page in our app that will have this feature. So inside of our app folder, we're gonna create a new folder. So I'm gonna right click on the app folder, and I'm gonna say new folder, and I'm gonna call this. I'll call it generate recap. So I know that this is from the recap space. Now, remember these folders. When you go to your website, whatever your website is, .com / one of these folders. So / account, you end up on the account page, / auth, you end up somewhere on the sign in page, / generate, you end up on this page from yesterday, / private, you end up on a page that's private. So these are different / directories of our website. And so now we have / generate recap that's empty right now. So inside of this / generate recap, we're actually gonna create a page. So right click, new file. We're gonna call this page.tsx. That's gonna be the only page inside of this folder. This is the new Next.js setup. That's slightly different because before you were able to name pages different things. I could have named this generate.tsx, but then it would get redundant because we already have this folder name. And as you can see, the page inside of most of these folders, we look at sign in, they're all called page.tsx. So we're going to follow that logic. Now, inside of this page, we need the code to check the subscription, check if the user is logged in, and then display the Stable Diffusion 3 generation component that we'll create. So, for this basic setup, I've actually already created the code for this. It's a code that's very universal. You guys can get it from the guide. So here we have the guide, understanding the project structure. We just went over that. Now we're creating a protected page. And as you can see right here, I give you the whole code for that page. So I'm going to copy that as well. Again, just generated using AI. I went to AI, and if you guys read through this guide, you'll see that I give you the prompt as well. It's a pretty big prompt explaining to the AI exactly what I'm doing and what I want out of this page. And so what I end up with is a page that, as you can see, checks for the subscription if a user has an active subscription, and it's able to pull this from Stripe and from Supabase live. So if your user cancels a subscription, they immediately lose access. And then it also checks if the user is logged in, of course. And now this is our basic setup for this page. So if I go to terminal and I run this, npm run dev, if I go to this website and I go to / generate recap, I'm going to end up on this private page. So let's go here, / generate recap. I'm going to end up on a page. It should say private page, but I'm actually not signed in. So it just shows me the pricing table. So let's sign in. And now I should end up, when I go to generate recap, on the page that says private page. Perfect. Most of us should get here. So, just to give you guys a little recap, I went to the app folder, I right click on the app folder, I create a new folder, and then inside of that, and then what you name that folder is whatever you want to use the user to go to. So if you want the user to go to / generate, you'll name the folder generate. If you want the user to go to / SD3, you can do that, and whatever the name of your feature is. And then inside of that folder, so I created generate recap folder. So inside of my folder, I right click on it and then I click new file and I make a file called page.tsx. And then the contents of that page, well, I give you guys an example for the contents of that page. You can really do whatever you want in here, but the example starts you off with a basic setup where on the page, it checks if the user has a subscription, it checks if they're signed in. Otherwise, they'll display the pricing table. So otherwise, here, go buy a subscription, sign in, and then you can view this page. So that's our setup for this page. That's how we create this private page that's only accessible to subscribers. Any questions so far? Because now we're going to start integrating our code into this template. So any questions, guys, just feel free to raise your hand. I am on the phone, so I can see everybody. I can see
Give
all
me a
the phones.
second there. I see you. I just brought Artie up. It took me a second. I was like, dude, it won't come up. And I said it just like that under my breath. Dude, it's not coming up. Alisher, Artie is on stage. I do believe he has a question. And I am bringing up Rutrow is also.
Hey, Alisher. I've gone through and I've copied the code from the GitHub repository that was most recently updated. Every time I try to run this locally, if I go to / generate or / generate recap, I still get the pricing plans page. I don't get anything else.
Yeah, that's because, are you signed in?
Am I signed
Are you
in?
signed into your own website? Over here in the top right, does it say sign in or sign out?
It says sign in.
So you're not signed in, so you need to sign up for your own website and buy your own subscription.
Yeah, so Artie, it's working. It's just you're not able to see it because you didn't pay yourself yet. You got to pay to play.
It's not pay to play. You can use the Stripe test credentials.
Yeah,
I don't know
you
why
got.
you're saying pay to play.
Well, fake pay. You got to fake pay.
Stripe test credentials.
It's just
Okay.
because it's not letting you see the private page because you have no subscription.
How do you get the Stripe test credentials?
It's the card number is 424242, just continuously.
And just make sure the date is in the future.
Okay.
Artie, also make sure when you're adding your subscription, right, to Stable, make sure you keep a note of it, okay? Because these subscriptions do add up, and you want to make sure that you're keeping track of those kinds of things and also writing them off because you are building a business. So make sure you know that.
Yeah, definitely.
I would say if you're paying for an API call, it's considered cost of goods sold because
This
essentially
is
that's your
true.
production cost.
Do not take anything that any of us say. You're going to have to consult a tax attorney. But I know for me personally, that is what I'm able to do. So I'll just leave it there. Rutro also had their hand up too. I don't know if you're done with your question, Artie.
Yeah, until I get signed up. Yeah.
Bonus. Excellent. And I apologize ahead of time for the puppy in the background. There is a squirrel that is in the front yard and definitely needs to be chased off. So that's not going to happen, but you might hear the whining in the background. Rutro, go ahead, love.
Mine's real quick. I missed a step. I was on another screen, so I'm on the page and I copied all the code in there. And now what do I do? DPM run dev? Is that what we do?
So it's npm node package manager space run space dev.
Rutro, this will feel familiar. Those words or the NPM, they
Node
kind of package
package.
manager. Yes, those are you'll recognize it. It's going to start toggling in your head from previous lessons, but it'll start to make sense. You'll have that epiphany moment. It'll start to click. I swear it. It takes a while, but it will click. But yes.
Okay.
So guys,
So what is it again?
before we continue, what is the command?
What peanut butter?
Yes.
Please repeat the letters. It's Nancy Paul mailbox, right? Is there a space or an underscore? Um,
There's a space.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's where people got tied up last night. Um, if you can see, can you see, I know, visual life, I see you're smiling. Can you see Alisher's screen at all? Are you lost on that step?
Okay, I got it.
Excellent, Smithers. I'm
Uh,
proud of you.
so npm run dev. That's what I said. But then y'all said package runner. Oh.
npm stands for
Okay.
node package
See, I
manager.
told you. The light bulb
I
moment.
was spelling it
Yes,
out. I go, I
yes.
never spelled
There
it
it
out
is.
before. What the hell?
It's
Okay,
morning.
got it.
It's morning.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Don't
Move
apologize.
along. Sorry.
Don't apologize. It's really interesting too that sometimes, especially in social audio, your brain is trying to connect the dots. So when you're listening to something, your brain is a different part of your brain is being activated, right? And so then you kind of think back and you're looking at the visual, and then all of a sudden it hits you and you have that aha moment, and it's delightful. All of us are smiling with you, Rutro. I think we are all on the same page, are we?
Give us a
Thumbs up
thumbs
to the
up if you
folks
guys
down
got this
below.
far.
Yep. Is anybody in the listening audience, if you can send emojis or thumbs up, that also helps us as visual cues. Rutro. Rutro needs some help, Alisher. Oh, there she goes. She was just putting the thumbs down so that I would know. Mashing buttons. I love this. Okay. Just chime in if you need help. Go ahead, Artie.
Yeah, I feel like an idiot because I just can't. I'm not understanding.
You're not an
Like
idiot. Don't worry
I
about it.
so it's localhost 3000. That's what I'm on, and if I hit subscribe, it says unable to access customer record. Um, I
Yeah, you don't want to subscribe on localhost. We don't have that set up. That's a little bit too complicated for us to set up. So once we get to Vercel, so if you follow through with week 2, you would have your project on Vercel. You can go there and you can use that link to subscribe.
Okay. I did have it on Vercel, but then I think so. I don't really understand how updates get pushed. Like it says sign up failed, email rate limit exceeded when I try to sign up.
Artie, take
So,
screenshots too and post them in the bubble because sometimes that helps us try to suss out what you're doing or where you're at, right?
so you want to use the project that we used during week 2. If you start a new project, then you've disconnected yourself from the project from week 2.
Okay. I think I got to the right page.
And the updates get pushed through GitHub Desktop.
And then you put any name for the card holder or your
Yeah, you
name.
can put any name, any date. Yeah, we can't do it locally because locally we don't have Stripe running. It's going to be a little too many steps for us to install Stripe CLI and then have a local listener. It is in the guide though. If you go to week 2 guide and you follow it step by step, as I was testing everything for week 2, I made a note of each step that I took to get to the end goal. So if you follow that week 2 guide, when you're reviewing, getting up to speed, it will help you drastically.
Okay. I think I'm good now.
Excellent. If we're all caught up and on the same page, don't hesitate to chime in. If I don't see your face or anything or your hand, don't worry about it. Just chime in. Tell Alistair to slow down. It's okay. We want to make sure that everybody is caught up by the end of this session, so that you can kind of marinate and connect with the next session. Okay. I see that Morgan and Rosemary have arrived. I see you too, Renan, and of course Blue Pace and Brain and Dallas, Karobro and David, Rock and M. All welcome to the space, and all of our mystery listeners in the background too. We all love them. And I see you too, Mattia. So yes, go ahead, Alisher.
Awesome. So that's good. If we're all caught up, that's great. Now, yeah, unfortunately, that's the problem here with this little test. Is you can't, if you don't have your computer set up for Stripe locally, you won't really be able to test it locally. But if you want to test it, it's actually very simple. You just go to your GitHub desktop. Let me make sure I'm on the right one and I'm logged into the right account. I'm not. Continue browser. Okay. All right, so you're gonna go to GitHub Desktop if you're trying to test this and you haven't signed up and tested the subscription. You didn't get to that part in week 2 and 3. So here, I'm gonna have this one change since we just created a page. We haven't gotten to integrating our feature yet, so we should only have one page change. If you have other things here, uncheck them and make sure you only keep this one little thing here. It tells you what changed is you added a page inside of app generate recap folder. And then when you commit to main and you push, this is how you add changes to the repository that we have connected in Vercel. And now Vercel will immediately start to rebuild. So I can go to my Vercel, I can go to deployments, and I'm going to see there's the rebuilding. So that's how you would eventually test the change, sign up with Stripe test credentials, pay yourself a subscription, um, And yeah, you want the subscription because you want to test whether or not this page works, whether or not this page in localhost. So let's see, localhost generate recap. Oh, no. So you want to check if this page actually checks whether or not you have a subscription. So this one does. As you can see, I'm not signed in. It's asking me to get one. Once I sign into my account, it'll immediately unlock this page. And yeah, the rebuild should be about a minute, minute and a half. So after it's done rebuilding, I can go to my website again. I can refresh. I can go to generate recap. And I should be able to see this private page. Congrats, you have a subscription. If you guys haven't changed this. So that's how you would actually test this page. Now, back to our code. So the integration for Stable Diffusion 3 is pretty easy. There's really only 2 pages we need to add to um, our app, our SAAS template to make it work. We only need to write maybe about a line of code and install one package. So fairly easy integration. All it does is it sends an API request to the Stable Diffusion 3 endpoint that they have, and then it returns you an image. So what I have here is my components folder, and the way we're going to do it is we're going to create a component that has the entire page first, that has that form that we fill out with prompt, negative prompt, and aspect ratio. And then we're going to use that component inside of our page that you need a subscription for. So does that make sense? We're kind of wrapping our page in a component and then reusing it inside of our actual page that people have to pay and have an active subscription to get to. And then you can also reuse that component in whatever other page you want. So if you make another page that's paid and you want to reuse that form there and add more things to it, you could. So it creates this reusable component that you can really use anywhere in your website. So very important, you're going to go to your components folder. You're going to right click on the components folder and you're going to create a new file in here. And I'm going to call this file also generate recap. And in terms of naming convention, just make sure you keep it consistent. So for me here, it's called generate recap.tsx. It must be .tsx. That's your front end TypeScript code. And the G in generate is capital for me, and the recap R is capital for me. So that's your typical naming convention for all the different components that you're gonna have inside of your components folder. And that's also how we're gonna call it on our page. So generate recap, it's completely empty. There's absolutely nothing here yet. And what I am gonna paste in here is the code from Ross's project. So this is where we get to go to Ross's project on GitHub. Remember, everything in Ross's project is going to be in the SRC folder inside of the pages folder. So SRC, pages, and then index.tsx is going to have everything that we need for the form. So I'm going to go to index.tsx. I'm just going to copy the whole page and paste it as my generate recap component. And you guys are going to get one error in here. We're going to fix the error. You might have Axios missing from the project because that's the new package that we're introducing. But other than that, if you look at this page, it has all the code. You should have no errors. We're just going to change a few things here. So The first thing is in line 5 of this page. Since this is the home page that we're copying, it's called home, but our component is called generate recap. So we need to stay consistent, and instead of calling this home in line 5, we're going to change this to generate recap. And immediately you're going to get an error for the very last line on this page. And that's where you kind of like export this component. So we want to export generate recap instead of home. So keeping that consistent, in line 5 and line 92, you're changing home to the name of this page, the name of this component. Then we're going to save this. Now, if you still have this Axios error in line 3, you know it's an error because it's going to be underlined in red. You need to install a package called Axios. So all I have to do is run npm node package manager install Axios, exactly as it's spelled here on top. So that's going to be your solution majority of the time. And once it installs, it'll take a few seconds for Visual Studio Code to recognize it, and then that error will go away. So that's the first part. That's how we bring in the front end code for this integration. So again, to give you guys a little recap, I'm creating a new file inside of components. So I right-click on components, select new file. I'm calling that file whatever I want the component name to be. So it could be generate if this is your first time doing this. I already have generate, so I'll call this generate recap. And then inside of this component, I'm pasting all the code from the front page that I found in Ross's project, in Ross's SD3 Stable Diffusion 3 project. Then in here, you just need to make a few changes. So wherever you see that it says home on this page, mostly in line 5 and line 92, we're going to change that to generate recap. Because we want to keep it consistent, that's what we want our component to be named, so that's what we're going to use throughout. And if you have an error in Axios, you can go to your terminal and you can type the command npm install Axios. And then that'll install it for you. It almost sounds like a Harry Potter spell. And that's how we bring in all this front-end code sort of in one swoop. We don't need to write this code again. We can just bring it in. It's a fairly straightforward piece of code that doesn't have anything extra that we really need in this project. It's the perfect little mold for you guys to start with. Then eventually maybe make it look like a this beautiful image generator with different graphics, animations. Something we're gonna get to next week for sure. Okay, do you guys have any questions? Because we're gonna also get to the next step, which is the API call, right? Because Ross's project also has another file to making the API request to the stability servers to actually get the image to generate. So any questions, feel free.
I have one question. I pushed everything to Vercel a moment ago. When I'm on localhost, I can get the generate and the generate recap pages to show properly. But when I'm on Vercel, it doesn't. I get 404 errors when I try to go to those two sites, even though I'm signed in and everything.
Is that the right project connected to Vercel?
Yeah, the nextjs subscription payments project.
Yeah, but you might have several folders on your computer because if you push to GitHub, it doesn't necessarily mean you're pushing to Vercel, what you would need to do is you need to go to your Vercel. I'll show you. So you can go to your Vercel, you can go to deployments of that Vercel project, and you can see what the last deployment was. And if it's not the most recent one, then that's not the project that's connected on your computer.
Oh, okay. How do you sync those two up? You go to GitHub?
So in I'm trying to think what's the best way for you, because you do probably have it on your computer, right? Because we did do this, and I'm assuming you're staying with the same computer, right?
Yeah, the only thing I didn't do on the GitHub desktop is I didn't hit push origin. Should I push that?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's actually gonna bring the change up. So if you click push origin, you'll probably start seeing the deployment in here within a few seconds.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I'm getting
push
it.
origin is that actual step that brings it to GitHub. Commit is if you made something and you want to sort of like put it away, kind of to push later. But yeah, you do both commit and push.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thank you.
And if this was a project that's completely separate and wasn't even connected, you can just take the files and bring them into the project that is connected. Because these files, exact same projects, files are very plug and play. But that's good. It'll take you about a minute, minute and a half to rebuild, and then you should be able to see them on your Vercel. So awesome. Okay, guys. So now what we need to do is we need to create an API route. So an API endpoint that will send the request. Now, in our app router, this is done slightly different to how Ross's page router app does it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the API folder inside of our app folder. Right? So API folder is where you make all your API requests. I'm going to create a new folder in here. So right click, new folder. And for me, I'm going to call this generate recap, just to keep it consistent. So whenever I make an API call, I'm going to need to use generate recap. So I'm going to need to edit something here. Yeah, generate recap. For you guys, most of this is already set up. So whatever I did yesterday to make the generation work, the project is in the agenda. So if I bring the ITT website up here, I have the project right here. It has both Draw UI and Stable Diffusion 3. So if you guys want to get to the end of today, you can just go to that project and see what's happening. But in the meantime, we'll get this integrated. Let's see. Here's the empty generate recap folder, and if you take a look at these other API folders inside, each one of them has a little file called route.ts. That's going to contain the code to make the API request. So similarly, inside of my generate recap folder in the API, I'm going to right click, new file, and I'm going to make a route.ts file. Now, the code for this, I had a little back and forth with the AI. I gave it some documentation for the new Next.js app router setup, and it gave me a pretty good answer that did work in the end. So I recorded that answer for you guys, so we don't have to go through that again. And it isn't a step-by-step. Let me go to it. There you go. So it isn't a step-by-step here. It's the very last entry. Use this code to integrate the route for Stable Diffusion 3. So this is my little route that I ended up making work yesterday. So I'm just going to copy this code. I suggest you go to the step-by-step for this week and also copy it. Make it easy on yourself if you want to make it work. And this route is also pretty universal to other stable diffusion, other stability APIs. As you can see, this goes to SD3. You guys can just change this URL, change the model. You can change the output format as well. And it's also pretty universal to any sort of API call you're making. So if you're making a post call, which is what most of these requests are, you're gonna, well, it's gonna work. So you can use this as a template for all sorts of other API requests. But for us, this is fairly simple. It makes a post call, which if you go through the stability docs, a call you need to make in order to start an image generation. It processes all this data, so it takes the prompt, the negative prompt, aspect ratio, model, output format. Those are all the things you're able to edit in order with your image generation. And then it makes a call to the stability endpoint, uses your API key, and you eventually get an image back. So you can see right here, response is an image, and then it sends it as a B64, as a blob, to our front end. So that's the setup for our API. This is what you guys figured out with AI last night with Ross. I just had to rewrite it for the specific framework, which didn't even take long. It took about 20 minutes. Just figuring out a little bit, reading the docs a little bit, having the AI read the docs as well. Okay, now for the most part, we're almost done with the setup. Really, the only things left over is to go to that page that we created, our generate recap page, and actually add the component that we created for this form. So if I go to generate recap right now, and I look at this page, there's the setup to check the subscription, check if the user is logged in, display the pricing table, but there's nothing here about generate. All it does right now is say private page, congrats, you have a subscription. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on top. As you guys can see at the top, almost at the top of every page here in your project, you're going to have import statements. So import means you're bringing in a component either from the packages we installed when we run npm install or from your project. So right here I have some grayed out components that are not being used. I can just delete those. If they're grayed out on top and not being used, you can get rid of them. You don't need them. And I'm going to add a new component. So I'm going to click enter. I'm going to start typing import. So import, what am I importing? I'm importing the new component we made. So you can see, I'm going to show it to you right here. Generate recap inside of components. So I'm going to start typing generate. And there you go. Visual Studio Code does the work for us. Here we have generate, which we created last night. And here I have generate recap, which I just created today. So generate recap, once you click on it, it's going to fill it in for you. So it's going to import generate recap component from components, generate recap. Now it's grayed out because it hasn't been used on the page yet. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to plug this in right where we have congrats, you have a subscription. So you guys can orient yourself within this page. If you scroll down, the white text, so if you see the white text, that means that's the strings, the text that you actually see on your website. So I actually see this on my website. Private page, congrats, you have a subscription. I see it right here on my website. Private page, congrats. So I want to change this. I want to name this something else. So I'm going to change private page to generate images using SD3. I'm going to completely get rid of this little paragraph. I don't need it. So now I just have the heading, and I'm gonna use the component that I have created. So if you guys are a little bit familiar with HTML, HTML has your opening and closing tags, right? So if you look right here, section is an opening tag, and right here on the bottom, / section is a closing tag. So we're gonna follow the same logic. We're gonna start with an opening tag. So it's a less than sign. I'm gonna start typing generate recap, which is the name of our component. And now I wanna close this on itself. Since this is a component, it doesn't need anything in between the two tags, so I can just go to / and then do greater than sign as the closing tag. And that's how you use a component within the page. You import it first at the top using an import statement, and then wherever on your page you want to put it in, you just use this one tag that's both opening and a closing tag with the name of your component. And then you can save, and I should have this generate recap on my front page. So let's see, am I running this somewhere? I am, right? Yeah, localhost 3000. Generate recap. Right. So this is an issue we did run into last time as well. So in this specific framework, it actually tells you what the issue is. It says you're importing a component that needs use state. It only works in the client component. So we need to let the code know that this specific component is use client only, right? So it's only a front end piece of code. Easy. It tells you where the error occurs. So we're gonna go to that component. So it's in components, generate recap. Awesome. I already have it open. You can see it on top, components, generate recap.tsx. And now at the very top, I just need to add this little use client tag. And then once I save that, on our local host, it'll rebuild, and it should, might need to restart it in order to initiate the rebuild. Let's see.
Use client needed for this one too?
Hmm?
I think they're gonna get rid of that next time around. Or next OC. Hydration.
There you go. I'm not signed in, so it kicked me out. Let's sign in. Oh. What's that? No. There you go. And now I can find my generate recap page. Generate recap. Perfect. So now I have this page. It works. Now it doesn't work for us yet because we don't have the API key in. So what you need to do is the last step of this is to go to our .env file. So I have .env.local, and you want to add in your stability API key. So stability API key. Let me see what that looks like.
I'm sure. It's SK.
I know. Let me. Okay. So stability API key is you're gonna add something like this. It's gonna be stability underscore API underscore key equals, and then you're gonna paste in your stability API key in here.
And then you open it too, right?
Hmm?
And then you open it for the drawing.
I don't do that.
Oh,
No, not gonna get that. But yeah, stability API key. This is where you want to paste in your key, and then in Vercel we're gonna need to update our variables as well to make it work. But locally, you should be able to test it now. So
Oh, you're welcome.
let's get something good.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys are familiar with Stable Diffusion and Stable Diffusion prompts, this will give you some pretty good results. Let's check this one out. Can't even see my prompt because the UI is not built yet. So let's generate. Oh no, failed. Oh, good, because I don't have my key in.
Yeah, well,
Now there's some network tools we can use to get a better understanding of what's happening.
maybe throw your key in.
Yeah.
It has to be.
I just don't want to. Let me move this out of the way. I have to add my key in, so give me a second, guys. And then I don't want to accidentally stream my key, so let's see.
Now, last night there was a lot of discussion about these keys and how we do have to be very cognizant in protecting them. I encourage folks to kind of listen back to last night because it was kind of extensive when we were talking about it. But I'm noticing some of the folks in the audience, and some of you are familiar with not my keys, not my crypto kind of thing. But it is very important what we're playing with today, and we did last night. Staple 3 is not available to other people. And so having the ability to have that API key and have first mover advantage is really important. And there are a lot of folks, nefarious folks, that will try to extract those things from you, that data from you, and you have to protect it. So I am bringing you back up, Artie. There are some things that we've talked about before, and maybe I'll add it to an agenda item later when we have a regular session on a Wednesday night about safety in general. We've talked about different things that you can add to your computer to kind of give you the heads up that this is sus code or things like that, because we are dealing with the public domain. And especially last night, we had some issues. There are people that are not pleased with AI, and much like in times past, when there's emerging technology, you can be a big target when you're using technologies that other people are fearful of. And so I'm just putting that out there, not to add fear or FUD, as they call it, fear, uncertainty, or doubt. It's just being cognizant of your digital hygiene, for lack of a better term. Artie, did you have a question, love?
Yeah, so I'm getting an error. I think I just missed something in the so the page.tsx under the generate recap. I'm getting cannot find module at components / generate recap or its corresponding type declarations. I think you.
Yeah. So when you're typing here, I'll bring back my code into the live stream. So when you're typing, number one, you need to have a component inside of components. So as you can see, in my folder, I have generate recap right here. It's green. If you have it called something else, then that's what you'll be importing. And then when you start typing import, so here I'm gonna go to my page. So this is my page. I'm gonna start typing in import, and then I'm gonna start typing in generate, and it fills it in for me. You don't have to type out the whole thing. So wherever it is in your project, it'll pull it in. And if you don't have a component there, then of course you're not really gonna have anything in here that you can pull in. Does that make sense? So you want to have a component inside of components folder. For me, I have two. I have generate and I have generate recap. They both do the exact same thing.
Okay. Yeah, I gotcha. I think something was spelled wrong or something. I think I'm good now.
Okay. And also make sure that that you use that component in your page. So here, in this page.tsx that's inside of generate recap folder, I'm using the component over here in line 44, right under the title.
cool. Yeah, I did add that.
Good morning, Bjorn. I see that you've arrived. I hope that you're doing well this morning. I also see that Mike and Luke have joined the cadre of happy campers this morning. So hopefully you're catching up with the things that you may have had loose ends on last night. If you have any questions, just yell and scream. No problem. Excellent. I think we're all on the same page. Do any of the speakers have any issues that they want to bring to the forefront? Are we all caught up? And Alisher, what else is on the agenda for or this morning, I should say? What other things should people be on the lookout for when they listen to this recording? Because we are cognizant that we're all in different time zones. I anticipate that we'll see Dave eventually here, right? So I want to make sure that we're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's as we go through the agenda from last night and making sure that we have everybody caught up. Morgan has left or has arrived. Rutro is here. Artie's here. And I cannot see Alisher, which is probably an issue. I'll see if I can bring him up.
Just a quick note for everybody tuning into the recap this morning. We do have the ITT session, Innovators Think Tank number 50, will be this Saturday at 2 p.m. I went ahead and pinned the post and reminder up in the nest. And again, we talked about it last night. This is another reminder for you guys. If you want to pitch your project in an ITT, this is to get feedback, maybe customers for when you launch, maybe more collaborators. Please fill out the apply to pitch section of the Innovators Think Tank website. It takes like 30 seconds. And I promise, I won't let anybody throw too big of stones at you or stab you too much. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. There's some people in here that I know are building really cool things. Jeff, Brain, Morgan, Visual Life, Dallas, Jonathan's grandma. I know you're building some cool stuff. It would be so awesome to hear a pitch from you. Artie, Rutro, each and every one of you, we would love to hear from you. Of course. Artie, I see you got a hand up. Any questions or comments? It looks like we don't have TSI. Maybe the GPUs ate them. It just ate all three of them. So, Artie, what do you got?
Oh yeah, my question is for TSI because I'm running into an issue on Vercel that I'm not figuring out.
Are you hitting the 404? I did hit that last night and it drove me nuts. I couldn't figure
an
it out.
error with deployment. It's a yeah, it's an error with deployment. Cannot install with frozen lock file because pnpm lock.yaml is not up to date with package.json.
Oh, we got Alisher. He's back. Alisher, did you hear the note from Artie on his error?
No, that's when Ross's phone died.
Oh, wait, is it the we were fixing and then it died?
It's the JSON issue that the Artie is hitting that some folks had trouble with last night. And I also brought Karobro up too.
And the code that he's
updating. So what was your issue with the what JSON issue?
Artie, please repeat. Yes, thank you, love.
I just messaged it to you, but it's ERR_PNPM outdated lock file cannot install with frozen lock file because
Okay, you're doing this in Vercel, right?
Yeah, this is Vercel.
Okay, so what you want to do is, in that case, you want to delete package lock.json. And then when you delete it, you want to commit that. This is a generated file. So if I delete that,
it'll regenerate instantly.
And then I will PNPM lock here as well.
That's why.
But after you do that, you could also do an override command You can delete PNPM lock if you want to, but you just don't want package lock in there because this uses PNPM for in Vercel specifically. So as you can see here, it says I deleted this file, then I have all these changes, and that's the last step, is to commit these changes. And when you're committing, you just want to be careful. You're only committing the files that you have changed. So the file that you might have changed was package.json, but package lock is typically generated by node. So I'm going to commit this. I'm going to say added recap, and then we're going to see if this works. So commit, push.
And right before we crashed, he changed the code. We checked the code.
Yeah, and right before we crashed, guys, I did fix the code for this to actually work. So, and I did update it in Notion. You probably watched me update it. I just didn't know the phone died. But yeah, I updated it in here. So this, you can use this route, this code as your route.ts file. And it is also, if we go to the ITT agenda, it's also in the agenda. I added it for today. Let's see. Where do I have the agenda open? Right here. So I have the agenda. It's in here for yesterday as well. It's the very last link. It's going to be in here for today's agenda as well. If you want to go straight to almost like the end and see what the end result looks like, you can grab this code and just pop the files into your project. And this is going to have the latest files as well. As you guys can see, this is the project I'm using right now during the recap. So let's go to our Vercel. Let's check it out. Here I have ready. If you're getting an error again already still, what you can do is check this out. In settings in Vercel, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. You can scroll down and you see where I have build and development settings. You can overwrite the install command. So you can turn this on and you can do npm install. Because they use PNPM, it's a little bit faster. But you can overwrite that and still use npm install. So that should help you as well a little bit. Now, remember, guys, we're going to need to go to environment variables. And in here, we need to add our stability API key. Right? So just like I added stability to my env, I'm going to come in here. This is in the settings in Vercel, in environment variables. I'm going to go to key, and I'm going to add stability. So stability API key right in here. And then you will put your key, SK, whatever. Then we're going to save to add it in. Make sure this is a real key. Otherwise, of course, it won't work. For me, it's not. And then once you add a real key in, if you need the override command, once you write your override command in the settings for npm install, we can go to deployments, and then we need to redeploy this. And then we should get the result that we want, the result that has the generate page. And for me, the generate recap page.
And what's cool, guys, this is not just a demo. This is pretty real. So, like, if you give this to people, they'll pay and it will work. So it's actually really interesting that this now goes from a template to a full stack application that's SaaS. It's pretty cool. This is what we do when we build Pixio and AI Tutor. This is the exact process that we go through. We use our own tools and we build it.
Once it rebuilds, that's pretty much it. It built out. There is one thing we could add, which is the menu. We can change our menu up a little bit. I'll show you guys where to find that. But other than that, that's about it.
The only thing you need is put a domain on it, and that's really it.
Mm-hmm.
Just make a new domain.
I'll say in week 6, we'll show you guys where to find some domains, where to buy domains, how to connect them.
And then at the end, we're going to launch your project and make sure it has all the bells and whistles that people can actually use it, and no one is going to have a problem actually using your app. That's what we're going to do towards the end. Caro, you have a question?
Yeah, like I posted in the purple corner, I think Tech in School initiative, I've been working on a project for the past 24 years on how to change education. And I've developed 10 plugins to ensure that the technically rigid workforce among our MIS are technically and economically flexible when relating with people, objects, and environment.
Okay.
I think I'm sorry. I'm not changing the topic. I'm in line with Tech in School initiative. I'm speaking towards Tech in School initiative, and this program is more of Tech in School initiative, PCO, this thing. I'm looking at how DESTECH is digital entrepreneurship soft skill technology, how we can collaborate to develop 10 million technical soft skill talents, because those are the talents that can use this website effectively. This enterprise solutions softwares that Tech is School is introducing.
Karobro, I love the passion in
Yeah.
your voice. It's so wonderful to hear it. I would love to hear you talk on Saturday when we have all of the innovators in the think tank, because that's where that kind of collaboration can occur. This morning, this is just the tail end of a class last night. So most of the listeners are just trying to finish
I was in the class
their
last night
homework.
too.
So
Yeah.
forgive me
Okay.
for mentioning it, because this class can't go on as
Okay,
long
cool.
as last
I
night.
think I think Josh should give me the opportunity to that day to get the mic and do a 1-minute
Absolutely. You
pitch.
can
My
sign
pitch
up
is ready.
right there on the website. And I would love to hear
I've
what you're
already
building.
signed up. I've already signed up for that. I've signed up, so I'm on the waiting list. But I can repeat again. I can resign again.
Oh, please do. It's
today.
just right now we have a handful of students that are trying to get past the page.
Okay,
So I
good,
don't want to be rude to
good.
them
Thank you.
because the time is very, very limited. But I appreciate you coming up. It was wonderful hearing your voice. And I look forward to hearing from you on Saturday, okay? I see that Artie has his hand up and he's really struggling right now. We're going to try to figure out his problem, his snag, and then go on if that's okay with you, Karobo. And I thank you again. Go ahead, Artie. What is your question, love? Did you get past the JSON screen?
No, sorry, I just feel like the problem child right now.
Oh, no, you're not. I am the
Alisher,
problem child. I own that
sent you
crown.
I sent
Go
you
ahead.
I sent Alisher a screenshot. I'm getting failed to compile, like cannot find a module, and then some import dynamic stuff. I don't know if I just have messed up completely. I don't know.
Just, you don't worry about it. So I have fracked up more things than I can possibly imagine.
One sec, I'm looking at your screenshot right now.
Alisher's looking at it. Just right now, Artie, take a deep breath, because you know what? They'll
Okay,
suss it
yeah,
out.
it's because that project specifically has some more stuff that you don't have. So trying to think.
Hang on 1 second, Artie.
He's pulling in my project. That's why. Withdraw.
Artie, sweetie, is there any way that you have the ability to share your screen in the back channels with maybe Ross or Nick?
So Artie, I know your error. So your error is because you're pulling in everything from my project, right? The project that I shared on GitHub.
Yeah, I was copying over things.
Yeah.
And
so check this out. You're all fine. You just need one more step in there. You're gonna go to my project. So I'm gonna go to my project too, so you can see it. And you are missing a few packages because my project also has Draw UI, right? That we didn't get around to integrating. So in my project here, I have it on a live stream. You want to go to packages.json, package.json. I describe this in a step-by-step, and you can just copy this whole thing and copy it into your package.json.
Sorry, I took me a minute to find the screen where I had the live stream on.
Yeah, so you're gonna go to my project on GitHub, go to package.json, and you're gonna copy this whole package.json file into your project, your package.json. Does that make sense? Take a minute, try that out, then push to GitHub again, and see what happens. Because this package.json, this has some of the things that you're missing. Or does it? No. Yeah, it does. So you're missing TL draw because it also has draw UI in there. So this will bring it in, and this will bring in a few other things like canvas, some other React elements. So you can take this whole thing. Let me check my GitHub because I did just push to it, or my Vercel. Yeah, so it should work. It's really just you're missing that package.json, a few packages in there that you need, and that's the error. So if I go to your error, I hope you don't mind. I'm gonna read this out. So his error says, cannot find module at TL draw. A module is a package. So immediately, if it can't find a module, we need to think to, okay, where are all these modules being recorded and pulled in from? And they're all being pulled in from package.json in our project. So if you guys take a look at my package.json, I have things in here like TL draw, which is used for drawing the UI in Draw UI. I also have things here like Axios, which we installed today and last night to make Stable Diffusion 3 work. It also has other things in here like Stripe, Supabase, and all the other packages that make our app work.
And anytime you add on to this project and you make it better or add features, you have to add more package JSON to make it build.
That makes sense. I'm waiting for it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll wait with you because I think after this, just remember you want to add the environment variables in Vercel as well. So I'll remind you guys, our last step for this project is to go to our settings in Vercel, go to environment variables, and add in stability API key and your stable diffusion API key value. So that's very important. It might require you to redeploy after you add that, and then it should work. And I'm going to give you guys one more little, I guess, nugget of knowledge into this template afterwards, after we see Artie get a win right now.
Already gotta get the W. Hey guys, just to reiterate, we use this template for the first year of AI Tutor.
That's true.
Like it managed all of our users, all subscriptions, and all our products for 1 year until we shifted. This template is really good, guys. Probably one of Vercel's best. And ours looks way not as nice as this. Theirs is way nicer.
I wanted to welcome Morgan and Cordell to the stage. I know they're both busy working in the background. Cordell, I'm hoping that we can get you caught up, love. I know that you had to leave last night. Did you suss it out? Did you follow the agenda and kind of get yourself to a place where you're not going to want to destroy the computer or, yell and scream obscenities and ruin your joy? How are you doing this morning, friend?
Cordell?
Hello. What's going on, everyone?
Oh, you sound like you're just waking up. Oh, you sound like you're just waking up.
Girl, I've been going. I'm exhausted.
Yeah,
I'm
either that or you
exhausted today.
haven't gone to bed yet. Either one of those. You sound tired.
What?
You work too hard,
Girl,
buddy. You work too hard.
I'm exhausted. Yeah, I'm just now making it here, and I'm just not even like getting to my back to my computer. So I'm.
It's
Oh,
okay. Take a deep breath, get some coffee in you. It's time to get to work. We want to make sure that everybody's caught up. This is the hard part. It is hunting and gathering, yes, but for those that were not here last night, there were some significant changes that happened in between. The the announcement of the class and then the 6 hours in between until we started the class, amongst them being that Stable has another version, Stable 3, and Ross and Nick and Alisher spent literally 5 hours before class preparing these models for us to, or these hubs, I should say, or repos, for us to fork and kind of make our own. And it's really important because, as everybody knows, the entrepreneurial mindset, that maker mindset, has the ability to be flexible and pivot when necessary. They see opportunities where other people do not. And for the folks that have actually put all of these pieces to use, they're doing some fantastic things and it's monetizing in real world. I know that money is a motivator for many, many folks. And so, being able to pay off your mortgage or have some groceries on the table. I know that there are single moms that listen last night, especially, and folks that are on, a fixed income here in the space today. The ability to generate and revenues by, the fruits of your labor, for lack of a better term, having that first mover advantage, especially here on the social media platforms, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Farcast, or whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. The ability to say that you've already created something using a model that no one else has access to is very powerful. And becoming more versed in these things, we did talk about earlier having your AI cohort and allowing my AI tutor doing the heavy lifting for you. Now, whether you have my AI tutor or not, obviously I'm very biased and partial because, one, I love the organization, I love the boys, and I love what they're doing. Their mission to get technology in the hands of every student, irrelevant of where they come from or the backgrounds. That's really important to me because access to these tools can make or break a person. It can literally change their stars. And I've watched ordinary people in this space do extraordinary things over the past 4 weeks, in building out ecosystems and, making bank. I mean, Bjorn's not here. I think he already left, but I mean, $5,000 upfront check and $2,000 a week is not anything to scoff at, especially if you are paying $5 or $6 for a dozen of eggs, depending on where you are in the United States. So
right?
I know, right? But it's also some of the other things that he is thinking outside of the box. The kinds of tools that he's thinking of are simple man tools. The ability to look at a roof and judge based on, the data that can be gleaned from these models is powerful. It used to be that you would have to have a person out on the roof with your ladder and everything else. If you can take drone data or if you can take satellite data and you have the ability to suss these things out in a very powerful way, accurate way, the ability to maximize your time is so powerful, so cool, and it's useful. Other people know that this is a pain point, especially in rural areas. Think about gas costs. Think about all of the other things that are involved in traveling from place to place, and how those things can be taken out of the equation, and those profit margins can expand. That's really cool, and I love listening to him think of new ways to use his new skills. It's so much fun. It's contagious. We had a couple moments last night, even over the last 4 weeks, where you'll hear the giggle giggle, the contagious giggle when someone has something that clicks, whether it's Vivek or, Rutro had that moment this morning. It's like, oh my gosh, I understand it. And you hear the little giggle and the giggle is, I understand it. I'm not a coder. I'm not all these things, but for the first time, the building blocks make sense. It's a powerful thing for all of us because it instills hope, but more so it instills that can-do spirit, and it's the can-do spirit that we all need, especially in uncertain times with emerging tech that can be fearful, can be anxiety in a bottle, whatever. So, at any rate, I wanted to welcome everybody back to the stage, resetting the conversation a smidge while Alistair gets resettled. It's hard, you guys. I will just tell you point blank, when your phone dies, or if you're driving, this is another thing. If you're driving and all of a sudden you lose the signal and trying to get back into the space, you feel so obligated because these aren't just faces. These are your pocket family. They're people that you care about, and you're dead in the water and there's nothing you can do. You're just kind of pissed and you're trying to push buttons, which make things worse. So hopefully, Alicia, you're all settled in. And Artie, you're sussing out your issue. Do you see what's connecting the dots, I should say? Are they helping you in the background?
I'll help out Artie right after. I just want to start wrapping this up a little bit. But Artie's issue is it's a singular issue. It only pertains to his project. Most of us, I think, only did Stable Diffusion 3. Artie's project just also happens to have TL Draw, which we'll fix it with him. But the fixes also, if you want to know how to fix his specific issue, I do go over it here in the guide. It's actually right here, integrating. And it is, let's see, it's in step 6 of integrating. Essentially, Artie is just missing a few packages, which afterwards I'll help him install, and we'll take a look at his code. But for most of us, if we only added Stable Diffusion 3, or if we're using my project directly, we should have everything that we need. We should be on Vercel. It should be redeploying. And one little change I want to do before we finish up is actually adding this new page, this generate recap page that I created to my top menu right here next to generate. As you guys can see right now in the menu, I have pricing, account, draw UI, generate. Now I also want to add generate recap. So I'm going to go to my VS Code, and now this is the navigation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search. I'm going to search for nav. And here I have a few things. I have nav bar and nav links. So I can go to nav bar, but nav bar is just going to tell me that it's using nav links. So I'm just going to go to nav links, and in here, you can scroll down a little bit. You can read through some of this code, and you're going to start seeing, well, here's the link to go to pricing. Here's the link to go to account. Here's a link to go to draw UI. And here's a link to go to generate. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to click one of these links. I'm going to copy the code for the link. Remember, the whole code for the link, it goes from link opening tag to link closing tag. And then I'm going to paste it right after. So generate, except this is going to be generate recap. And then the page is going to go to is generate recap. And that's going to be the last change I make. So now when I go to my GitHub desktop, I have this change in here. It shows me the change. I have one change. It shows me the exact change that I made. I added these tags. I changed it to generate recap. And now I'm just going to commit. I'm going to push origin. And now Vercel will take about a minute to rebuild. And I should have a new link here on top that says generate recap in about a minute. So that should be our last step. So again, you're going to go to your project. You're going to search for nav links in the very top bar. This is your file search. So I'm going to search for nav links in here. Then inside of nav links, you're going to find how each link is being displayed. So it uses this link tag with a text in between. I'm going to copy and paste one of them. And then I'll rename it to generate recap for me. And now after about a minute, my live link should be updated. Let's double check. Let's see if it's updated yet. And there it is. I have a new link here, generate recap. And it takes me to this generate page. Now, for me, it's not going to work. I didn't put in my real stable diffusion key in here. But now I have generate recap. I have generate. If you guys followed my, I guess, my tutorial, my step-by-step from the Notion doc, you would also have draw UI. And as you can see, this is actually wrapped inside of our page. And then, of course, I have account, which is what it came with already. And I have a little front pricing page.
This is actually a SAAS app, guys. This is real. So cool. This is like something that somebody would pay for. It lets you draw a UI using OpenAI and lets you generate the unreleased Stable Diffusion 3. Instant buys for people. They would literally buy it.
And then next week, we'll learn how to, spruce this up, make it look like your own and not like a Vercel template.
Which is the fun part. Making it different colors, adding your logo, making it branded.
Yeah.
Woo! Creative parts. Yay. I like customization.
You can't customize what's not built, so that's why this part.
You know what I mean. You said colors, and I got happy. Be quiet. No, just kidding. I love
that's all it takes to just say colors.
Hey,
guys, just a quick note before we wrap up. I highly recommend that you go through the week 4 guide, you go through the step-by-steps on integrating Draw UI, and you also listen to this recording that I will post, because I think this recap, we went step-by-step through actually integrating the Stable Diffusion 3 code from all the pieces and the projects that we have available to us. So this recording is going to be about 2 hours long. So if this is what you're working on, if you're adding in different elements into your SAAS app, I highly recommend you go through this recording specifically, because it's a little bit shorter than the recording for the space last night. As soon as it gets posted, I'll shoot you guys a link on Twitter, and the guide will take you through building one project, and then this video will take you through building a different project. So you'll have 2 new features for your SAAS app under your belt now. And then from there, if you understand how all this works and how you can use AI to build out the different features with their front-end code and their API calls, then you should be able to start building out new features on your own. So let's see, do we have any final questions?